It's 22:45 on the 2nd of October 2025. Near Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea, the U.S. destroyer USS Dewey snaps to full alert as multiple hostile radar locks spike across its scopes. Sirens hammer, red lights wash the bridge. Sailors rush to stations, hatches slam, boots hit steel. Outside, white spray rips under hard moonlight as the Chinese destroyer Xiamen bears in, only 3 nautical miles away, shadowed by a 54 amperes frigate and 2 Coast Guard cutters. Open channels crackle. Keep your distance, alter course now. Jammers squeal. The tactical net flickers. The Chinese beam stays glued to the Dewey's skin, deliberate and cold. Every second stretches. A Y-8Q circles farther out, sniffing for weakness. The helmsman trims a few degrees. The ship's guns come live. Safeties click. No missiles fly, not yet. But the rules are thin tonight. Gray zone hardball. Steel on steel. Radar versus nerves. One stumble, one blinding pulse, and the next sound won't be a warning. It will be metal tearing and water rushing in. The South China Sea isn't just water, it's one of the planet's busiest lifelines. Tankers and box ships cut through narrow lanes day and night, carrying fuel, grain, chips, and phones. If those lanes choke, prices jump at home, shelves thin out, and small businesses feel it first. When the USS Dewey shows the flag here, it isn't protecting a single ship. It's defending the idea that the sea stays open to all. Beijing argues otherwise. Backed by the PLA Navy, the Coast Guard, and swarms of fishing boats, China claims most of this sea as historic waters. Scarborough Shoal, just a ring of coral and sand, has become a floating checkpoint. Every move is logged by satellites, drones, and commanders who know a headline can erupt from a single wrong turn. This week's tension follows Balikatan 2025, the big US-Philippines exercise meant to prove the alliance can move and fight together. Beijing called it provocation. Now 2 Chinese warships, destroyer Xiamen and frigate Huangshan, escort Coast Guard cutters 3,305 and 5,203 near the shoal. Their radar paints the Dewey and her partner, the BRP Jose Rizal. A Y-8Q circles wider, hunting for patterns. It's gray zone pressure. No shots, maximum squeeze. For the crews, the stakes are simple. Keep calm, keep distance, keep the channel open. The Dewey must protect freedom of navigation without giving Beijing a pretext. Manila needs proof the alliance is real. Washington needs to show resolve without stumbling into a fight. Every degree of the helm, every radio word, is part of the message. Either way, what happens in the next minutes will echo far beyond this reef. From Manila to Washington to markets you feel at the checkout. You're watching the standoff. Who holds the line? If it's the US, press 1. If China pushes harder, press 9. 22:47. The USS Dewey's radar screen flickers again. 2 Chinese signals are closing fast. One at low altitude, another sweeping wide. Contacts confirmed, bearing 085. The operations officer calls. The bridge tightens. Bring the ship to alert condition 1. The Chinese destroyer Xiamen turns broadside, its fire control radar locking straight onto the Dewey's hull. The shrill tone fills the control room. It's not an attack yet, but it's the digital equivalent of pointing a gun at someone's chest. The Dewey's electronic warfare team scrambles, launching counter-jamming signals to break the lock. Static bursts fill the frequencies. For a moment, the radar tone fades, then snaps back even stronger. Launch Nulka decoys, the captain orders. 2 canisters fire from the ship's stern, releasing metallic clouds that confuse radar and lure sensors away. The crew watches their scopes as false echoes bloom across the screen. The goal: buy time and space. Contact bearing 270, another officer calls. The Philippine frigate Jose Rizal maneuvers in sync, shifting her course to block the Chinese Coast Guard cutters from cutting between the 2 allied ships. Radio chatter switches to short bursts, concise, coded, and tense. Each word carries weight. There's no room for misunderstanding. Overhead, the Y-8Q maritime patrol plane begins electronic jamming of its own. The Dewey's radar display fills with ghost signals, hundreds of dots flickering in and out. The sensors can't tell what's real. "Shift to optical track," the captain shouts. Crew members rush to visual stations, scanning with night scopes for silhouettes against the moonlight. The Chinese frigate Huangshan now joins in. Its deck lights dimmed, radar silent but active in passive mode listening, probing. It's a chess match of frequencies and angles. The Dewey responds with chaff bursts, thin aluminum strands scattering in the air to break radar lines. For now, it's working. Both sides hold their fire. The tension isn't in the missiles, but in the silence between transmissions. One wrong radio call, one false signal, and this gray zone dance could turn into a flashpoint. 22:59. The ocean looks calm, but only on the surface. Beneath that calm, the duel of sensors and human nerves grinds on. The USS Dewey eases 5 degrees starboard, holding a narrow lane between the shoal and the Chinese line. It's a small turn with a loud message. We're not backing off. Shaman mirrors the move, shaving the distance again. Every time the Dewey shifts, Shaman shadows her beam for beam, wake for wake. The standoff is no longer measured in miles, but in heartbeats. Wind hums through rigging. Metal ticks in the heat. Both bridges know the truth. The next wrong step won't just make news, it could make history. CCG 5203 altering course, intercept vector 205. The Coast Guard cutter angles in, white hull cutting a bright line across the moonlit water. Jose Rizal surges forward, crossing the Chinese bow with a clean, legal arc firm, not reckless. 2 wakes braid together, a warning drawn in white foam. Air horns bellow, brief and sharp. Rules are spoken here with turn angles and engine notes. The Dewey throws chaff again. Thin aluminum glitters down like metallic rain, splitting the ship's radar skin into ghosts. Electronic warfare teams ride the dials by feel, trimming power, shifting frequencies, shaping the ship's silhouette in the ether. For a moment, the hostile lock fades. Then the Y8Q swings back and the noise wall rises hash on the radio. Snow on the screens, a high whine inside everyone's skull. Hold the line, maintain position. Eyes out, the captain says, voice steady as a metronome. Huangshan creeps closer with lights dimmed. CCG 3305 drifts wide, looking for a pocket to slip through. AIS is dark. Nobody wants this recorded as an admission. The Dewey answers with calm choreography speed to 16 knots, a 2-degree trim, guns to ready, lasers on low power for range finding only. Floodlights stay cold. A spotlight flashes once across the waves. Identify, warn, de-escalate. The crew breathes in sync with the ship. The haze thins. One truth stands out in the clean scope sweep. Shaman inside 2 nautical miles, forward gun train not firing, just speaking in steel. Dewey's mount slews to match. 2 crews, 2 flags, neither blinking. In this grinding stare down, who yields first? Press 1 for the US, 9 for China. 23:14. Just when it seems the standoff has peaked, a new contact flashes on the Dewey's radar. Fast, low, and coming from the north. Unknown track. 30 miles out, speed 600 knots. Not a ship, an aircraft, maybe 2. The bridge falls silent. The air defense team snaps into motion, sensors to full power. Drones launch from the aft deck, rising through the haze. Seconds later, the feed clears 2 Chinese J-16 fighters. Low altitude, afterburners blazing, slicing toward the shoal. Their approach is deliberate. Each jet skims the waterline, engines howling, vapor trailing off the wings. They're not armed for a strike, but their broadcasting presence daring the Dewey to react. Air threat confirmed, the captain says evenly. Weapons tight, no launches without command. The Dewey's radar paints them clearly. Fire control locks wait but never engage. Systems hum, ready yet restrained. White streaks of flares burn across the sky as the fighters climb, roll, then dive again, mock passes meant to rattle nerves. Across the water, Chinese ships tighten their line. Shaman swings broadside, Huangshan edges closer in silence. Air, sea, and electronic pressure converge on one point, the Dewey. The destroyer answers with cool precision. Flares and decoys rise, dazzling the horizon. The crew tracks visually, steady under strain. They know this isn't random, it's a rehearsal for the next step, a test of who blinks first under real pressure. When the J-16 finally bank away, the sea goes quiet again. Radar tones fade. Only the hum of turbines and the slow return of breathing remain. No shots fired, but the balance has shifted, and everyone on deck knows it. 23:27. The horizon glows faint and electric as both sides drift into visual range. The Dewey's radar locks tight on Xiamen. The Chinese destroyer answers with its own beam, two invisible crosshairs etched across black water. No one fires. Not yet. Inside, tension hums like current. Every console is manned. Fingers hover above, triggers that could end this in seconds. Weapons ready. Fire only if fired upon, the captain says, calm but clipped. Below decks, the CIWS test spins a short metallic buzz that vibrates through the hull. Outside, waves slam steel. The Jose Rizal keeps close, guns cold but trained. Across the channel, Huangshan runs dark, closing slowly. Between them, bare miles, centuries of mistrust. Spotters whisper bearings. Helm adjusts by degrees. Nobody blinks. Then the Y-8Q jamming hits like a wave. For 3 seconds, Dewey's radar blinds snow on screens, hiss in headsets. When clarity returns, Xiamen has turned 20 degrees port, nose on to the destroyer. Its forward gun lifts a fraction. Targeting change detected, someone shouts. Steady, the captain orders. We do not react first. His tone anchors the room. Every second drags, every breath measured. The ocean feels weightless waiting. Huangshan shifts wider. CCG cutters drift near, bows slicing white scars through the moonlit sea. Pressure builds from air, sea, and spectrum. Dewey responds with posture guns on standby. Lasers low, chaff indexed but silent. Presence without provocation. A coded light flashes from Jose Rizal. Restraint advised. A short VHF call follows, calm and formal. A lifeline of diplomacy in a storm of steel. For one long heartbeat, both sides freeze, locked by tension alone. Then movement breaks it. Xiamen turns first. Its radar tone fades, followed by Huangshan. The Y-8Q banks north, vanishing into cloud. The sea breathes again, wind, engines, and the groan of cooling steel. The Dewey holds station. Guns stay hot but silent. No cheers, no relief, just the slow exhale of sailors who stared over the edge and stepped back in time. Deterrence held, but only by inches. Everyone feels how thin those inches were. Moments like this define more than battles. They define balance, trust, and power. In that final second, who truly won the night? Press 1 if the US held the line. Press 9 if China forced them back. Dawn breaks pale and quiet over Scarborough Shoal. The ocean looks unchanged, but everyone who stood watch through the night knows it isn't. On the Dewey's deck, sailors lean against cold rails, faces drawn but steady. The smell of burned chaff still hangs in the air. No damage, no shots fired, yet the tension lingers, heavy as the humidity. In Washington, the first reports reached the Pentagon before sunrise. Close encounter, no engagement. Diplomats call it measured restraint. In Manila, headlines declare the alliance held firm. But in Beijing, state media praises the PLA Navy for defending sovereignty with discipline. Two versions of the same night, each one claiming victory. For the crews involved, it's simpler. They know how close it came. The margin between peace and disaster was counted in heartbeats. Every radar ping, every turn of the rudder could have tipped it over. And in that razor-thin space, both sides blinked, but only for a second. By midday, the Chinese ships are gone, heading north at cruising speed. The Dewey and Jose Rizal continue their patrol, outwardly calm, inwardly alert. Radios stay quiet, but nobody truly relaxes. Out here, calm is just the pause between storms. Analysts will spend weeks dissecting this night: who yielded first, what signals meant what, and whether this was a test, a warning, or the start of something bigger. What's clear is this: the South China Sea is no longer just about water and reefs. It's about control, perception, and who gets to decide the rules of the next crisis. For the US, it's proof the line can still hold, but only if they're willing to live right on its edge. For China, it's a reminder that pressure works without firing a shot. Both sides walk away claiming discipline. Both know how fragile that balance really is. And you watching this moment unfold, who do you think truly shaped the outcome? If it's the US, press 1. If China set the tone for the next showdown, press 9. It's 14:20 on the 18th of August 2025. In the South China Sea, a U.S. Virginia-class attack submarine erupts from the water inside a Chinese carrier group. Sirens cascade across decks, boots pound steel. Radios crackle in Mandarin and English. On the bridges, officers freeze for a beat as scopes paint a friendly hull where none should exist. Destroyers swing to screen the carriers. Helicopters spin up. Missiles are saved but ready. The sea holds its breath. One wrong move turns shock into shooting, and everyone here knows it. Water sheets off the sail. The American flag snaps wet in the wind. Chinese lookouts shout ranges. Fire control chiefs mark bearings. Captains demand confirmation. Aboard the sub, the bridge team stands exposed, hands visible, while the hull hums and ballast vents hiss. Across the formation, guns track, safeties click, and 100 cameras record history at knife range. Engines idle, fingers hover over triggers, and every ship waits for the order that could start a war. In the South China Sea, shipping lanes stretch for thousands of miles, carrying fuel, food, fiber optics, and the chips inside your phone. A single blockage here raises prices back home and rattles markets abroad. The U.S. Navy sails these waters to keep them open. Chinese warships patrol to claim them. Pilots log close passes. Captains file protests. Each quiet day could flip in a heartbeat. For Washington, the mission is simple but heavy. Keep commerce moving and keep promises to allies. If that slips, insurance spikes, ships reroute, and store shelves thin. For Manila, Tokyo, and Hanoi, American presence means breathing room to trade and fish. For Beijing, pushing U.S. forces back would prove the balance has shifted, that new sensors, quiet subs, and long-range missiles can hold the line without firing a shot. That is why today's shock matters. A Virginia-class submarine surfacing inside a Chinese carrier screen is a message wrapped in spray. We can get here, and you didn't see us coming. It tests nerves, reflexes, and stories each side tells at home. If the sub walks away clean, Washington looks confident and capable. If the Chinese force it down or box it in, Beijing looks steady and in control. No one wants the first shot, but everyone rehearses it. History underlines the risk. Near Okinawa in 2006, a Chinese diesel boat surfaced close to USS Kitty Hawk and stunned observers. Budgets and pride shifted after that. Incidents like these don't stay local. They echo in capitals and on every chart that prices risk at sea. Your take, right now, shapes the debate. If you think the US was right to make this move, press 1" the comments. If you believe China will press harder until the next encounter turns lethal, hit 9 and subscribe so you don't miss the moment when this standoff finally breaks. 14:27 minutes after the dramatic surfacing, scopes across the Chinese formation bloom with blips, drones, helicopters, and wave skim echoes. Voices stack on headsets. Officers snap orders. Destroyers wheel outward, building a hard ring around the carriers while radars rake the sea for the American hull. Inside the Virginia, the crew rides the edge. Countermeasures are loaded but held. The sail stays up by design presence, has pressure yet it makes them exposed. Each ping could mark the start. 14:29. Helicopters claw into the humid air, racing low to seed sonobuoys. A dotted line of splashes cages the sub's position. Onboard periscope video catches rotors flashing through haze. The message is obvious: you're tagged. The U.S. answers without firing. A nearby Allied frigate lofts a small surveillance drone, piping full-motion video and emissions data into the battlenet over the horizon. Extra eyes buy seconds, and seconds matter when misunderstandings kill. Chinese Type 052D destroyers press closer, tubes open, crews in vests braced by rails. The carrier group lengthens its spacing to reduce one-shot risk. A frigate slices past the bow of the American boat. loudspeakers blasting warnings in Mandarin and English. The submarine answers with steady silence and tight helm. 1432. An Arleigh Burke destroyer far to the south locks sensors on the Chinese screen, ready to cover if shots start. A burst of U.S. jamming muddies, targeting radars, and data links fog on demand, forcing manual checks and slowing any fire order. Jamming buys time by reducing weapon accuracy. Plumes puncture the surface. Training charges, not war shots, but close enough to rattle nerves and cameras. Spray sheets over gray decks. The implied line is plain, next time it might not be practice. Still, the submarine refuses to dive. Pumps hiss. The flag snaps in gusts. By standing tall, the boat keeps the initiative. Every Chinese ship must watch it, not the horizon, the ring stretches. Sensors are split between sky, sea, and one stubborn intruder. For now, restraint holds. No missile smoke, no torpedo wake, but radios thrum, bearings update, and the geometry tightens. Everyone here knows this was only the first move, and the board is already shifting. 1438. The first wave passes, but the pressure does not ease. Several Chinese drones slip through gaps in the jamming field, buzzing low above the sea. Their cameras fix on the American submarine, relaying its every move. On board, sailors tense the enemy's eyes are inside the perimeter. A Type 52D destroyer angles hard, launching a helicopter armed with lightweight torpedoes. Its shadow sweeps across the deck of the sub before veering wide, daring the Americans to blink first. The submarine commander resists, holding position but shifting ballast slightly, turning the bow a few degrees to narrow the target profile. Even tiny angles matter when torpedoes can travel faster than sound in water. 1441. Defensive systems aboard a nearby U.S. destroyer roar to life. Phalanx CIWS turrets spin, radar dishes track every drone, and warning bursts of 20mm fire tear into the sky. Shells explode in white arcs, shredding two of the intruders, but others keep circling, relentless. For every drone destroyed, another appears, cheap and expendable. Chinese frigates join the encirclement, pushing closer, searchlights sweeping across the waves as if to blind the submarine crew. The standoff feels tighter by the minute. U.S. sailors grip rails, watching screens flicker with contacts, each dot a potential weapon inbound. 1444. More drones dive low, skimming wavetops. U.S. forces answer with electronic bursts, frying circuits mid-air. Explosions splash down in spray, but still a few make it through, buzzing overhead like angry wasps. The sound gnaws at nerves, constant, unnerving, designed to wear men down before a single shot is fired. Both sides know the truth. If just one drone survives long enough to mark coordinates, a real strike could follow within minutes. That weight drives every decision. The submarine edges toward deeper water, ready to dive if the first missile arcs out of a Chinese tube. The Chinese tighten their screen, determined not to let the Americans slip away without consequence. This is the razor's edge. Who yields, who fires, who miscalculates. And right here, you decide if you think the US should hold steady under pressure. Hit 1 inch the comments. If you believe China's swarm tactics will eventually break through, press 9. Subscribe so you're here when the moment of truth arrives. 1450. Just as US crews think they've stabilized the swarm, new blips appear smaller, faster, hugging the surface like sea skimmers. These aren't the bulky drones already circling. They are kamikaze craft built to overwhelm defenses. Harder to track, harder to kill. Alarms rise again. The submarine commander knows tactics won't hold. He calls for help from an allied destroyer on the edge of the fight. Its deck erupts with launches short-range interceptors designed for speed. Contrails streak upward, meeting the first attackers. Fireballs roll across the horizon, mirrored in the waves. 1452. But the threat is relentless. Dozens more appear, slipping between radar sweeps, darting low, dipping in and out of clutter. The Americans adapt. The submarine tilts, narrowing angles. Nearby escorts swing turrets, laying down belts of fire. Tracers carve arcs of orange across the sea. Even with precise shooting, several drones break through. One slams into the water yards from the hull, a geyser spraying high. Another is shredded at the last second by close-in guns, debris raining across the deck. The message is chilling. The next could hit. 14:55. The commander authorizes a final layer of defense. Portable launchers fire from the destroyer's rails. Shots streak out, knocking 2 drones from the sky. But the pace is exhausting. Every intercept burns thousands. Each attacker costs Beijing far less. It's an asymmetric squeeze, plain for all to see. The twist is clear. The battle has shifted. This is no longer detection, but endurance. Can costly US defenses keep pace with endless cheap strikes, or will volume finally crack the shield? The crew braces as the next wave closes in. 15-2. The last wave surges in. Smaller, faster, tighter in formation. Chinese drones skim feet above the waves, weaving through spray. Radars scream with clutter. Screens blur with overlapping returns. This is the strike meant to break through. The American commander wastes no time. Engage. Close-in weapon systems roar. Gatling barrels spin into a blur, spitting hundreds of rounds each second. Tracers rip across the sea, slicing drones mid-flight. The horizon flashes with fireballs mirrored in dark water. 15 hours, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds. The submarine vents ballast, canting the hull to shrink its profile. A decoy blooms, dragging seekers away. 2 drones veer off and detonate harmlessly. 15-3. Yet one slips past. Sirens blare, crew braces. A streak bears down on the sail. An escort CIWS swivels, firing a deafening burst. Shells connect. The drone explodes yards short, debris clattering off steel. The sub rocks hard, spray crashing over the bow. Another dives low. A shoulder-fired missile arcs from the destroyer's deck, slamming the target in a blinding flash. Cheers echo, but only for a second. The fight isn't over. Every crewman knows one miss equals disaster. 15-4. Damage control teams sweep for shrapnel. A railing bent, paint scorched, a sensor cracked, but the boat is fight-capable. Across the ring, a Chinese helo dips sonar, hunting for signs the American will dive. 15-5. The final drone zigzags through tracers. Guns hammer, but it keeps coming. The submarine holds steady. At the last instant, a defensive burst meets it head-on. Explosion. Silence. Smoke drips. The sea is clear. 15-6. The radio net goes still. Then positions shift. A US destroyer slides to cover. Combat air patrol angles in, and the submarine noses toward deeper water. The Chinese screen widens, wary of torpedoes. Helos pacing the edge. Every move dares the other to misread intent. The crew exhales. Adrenaline shakes hands, but the ship stands. The Chinese strike has failed. For now, the Americans own the moment. Now it's your call. If you believe US defenses proved unstoppable, press 1. If you think China's waves nearly cracked the shield, hit 9 and subscribe so you don't miss how this standoff evolves. 15-20. The sea is quiet. Smoke drifts across waves, broken only by the hum of helicopters and destroyers repositioning. The US submarine remains surfaced, battered but unbroken. Its presence alone forced the entire Chinese carrier group into a defensive crouch. The result is tactical but symbolic. No US vessel was lost. No shot from China struck home. Yet the fight revealed the imbalance both sides knew. Beijing can launch cheap systems in waves, while Washington spends thousands for each intercept. Defense works, but at steep cost. For US allies, the survival of the submarine proves America can still stand in the most dangerous waters. Manila, Tokyo, and Canberra see a shield they can lean on, for now. But they also see warning signs. China's tactics are evolving, and clashes are rising. Insurance firms factor risk into shipping rates. Merchants whisper about rerouting. Strategists wonder how long this balance can last. Beijing too finds pride and caution. Its new tools rattled US commanders, proved they could saturate defenses, and showed numbers can test even advanced navies. Yet failure to score a hit will sting. Media may claim victory, but officers know they must refine tactics for the next exchange. For Washington, the lesson is sobering. Every fight forces choices about cost, endurance, and credibility. If swarms can drain magazines and budgets, how will fleets cope when missiles or hypersonics join in? The answer will shape the next decade of naval power. Tonight, the U.S. submarine has held. The sea lanes stay open. Allies breathe easier for now. But all know this was just rehearsal. The next clash could bring more drones, more missiles, or a strike from shore. Crews log damage, bag fragments, and freeze every frame. Tonight's data will rewrite procedures before dawn. Now it's your turn. If you think America proved it can still dominate these waters, press 1. If you believe China's swarm tactics are the future, hit 9. And subscribe, because the next episode will show what happens when the waves double and the first missile finally leaves its tube.